Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar on HEROS for SHOP and VHRMP Grantees. My name is Stern, and I work with the Adverse Group. We are joined today by Lauren McNamara, Liz Sabia, and Lauren Hayes of HUD's Office of Environment and Energy. I would like to share a couple of housekeeping notes regarding today's session. This webinar is scheduled for 90 minutes. However, there is a chance that this session could run longer if needed. We are also expecting a number of you in attendance, so all lines are muted. This will be recorded. Recording and PowerPoint slides will be made available on Exchange within the following week. If you look at your WebEx control panel on the right-hand side of your screen, please take note of the following. Compare audio. If you need to change your audio settings from phone to computer, please be sure to click the Quick Start menu on the top left of your WebEx screen and go to the Audio Conference section. Switch selection from phone to computer audio. By default, this is set to host. Please use the drop-down arrow to select Presenter, Host, and Host option. Pod. All questions should be submitted through the question pod. By default, this pod is not automatically selected, so please now take the time to locate and click the Q&A pod so that it is added to your screen. The Q&A icon should be located within your control panel at the top right-hand side of your screen. We'll be stopping throughout today's session to answer questions that are submitted through the Q&A pod. Please submit your questions when you're thinking about them, and we'll respond to them when appropriate. If we're not able to get to your question today, you can go ahead and submit through the HUD Exchange Ask Question for HEROS. If you have technical issues related to audio or screen sharing, also submit those questions through Q&A pod on the control panel. I would like to turn today's presentation over to Lauren McNamara.
Thank you, Ben. First, I'm going to introduce Jackie Williams, the Director of the Office of Rural Housing and Economic Development, for a quick introduction.
Thanks, Lauren. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to address you this afternoon because we know that you're eager to serve the veterans as well as the self-help recipients for the program. However, it's important for HUD to ensure that we have a proper process in place for environmental reviews. So today is the first step for the Office of Rural Housing and Economic Development to work with our current grantees regarding the HEROS system. This is going to be a long day, but it'll pay off in the end. Clearly, as we move forward with the program, grantees will have experience and will carry out their Part 50 requirements for each of the programs. So we know that you're going to have lots of questions today. We know that you're going to have questions after today, so we encourage you to reach out to HUD to ensure that we provide you technical assistance that you need. Again, welcome to this training. And it'll be a pleasure to work with you down the road to ensure that we serve the people of both the SHOP and the Veterans Program. Lauren?
Thank you, Jackie. All right, so just a note, we are working on finalizing the notice for the VHRMP recipients to discuss protocols for environmental review, and we hope to have this notice finalized in the next few weeks, so please stay tuned for that. On today's webinar, we will be covering the following: Part 50, Environmental Reviews, just general background, environmental review resources, an overview of the HEROS system, and partner user role. Go into user access, how you'll request user access to HEROS. We'll walk through a HEROS demonstration, including some special instructions for specific screens, and finally, our suite of HEROS resources that are available to you. And we're going to have a quick poll question, so I am going to open the poll question. All right. How familiar are you with HUD's environmental requirements? Very familiar, somewhat familiar, I have no idea.
Oh, come on!
It looks like most of you have responded, and it looks like there's a mix between those of you who are very familiar, somewhat familiar, and those who are very new to environmental review. So I'm going to close the poll question and continue on with our presentation. So we'll discuss your role as a HUD grantee in the Part 50 environmental review process. So, an environmental review. It's a process to determine that a HUD-assisted project does not have an impact on the environment and that the environment does not have an impact on the project. Environmental review documents compliance with 17 environmental laws and authorities under the umbrella of the National Environmental Policy Act. The environmental review is a written record of HUD's compliance. The second bullet on this slide is very important for veterans grantees. Until HUD has completed the environmental review, you and your partners may not undertake any action that would have physical impacts even when using non-HUD funds. For SHOP grantees, you are allowed to acquire property with your own funding, your own risk prior to the environmental review. More information for Part 50. As a grantee, you must assist HUD with the preparation of the Part 50 environmental review, and this will be done using our HEROS system that I'll go into more detail on. You may hire consultants to help you prepare this documentation. If HUD identifies any mitigation measures, you'll have to carry them out, and once again, veterans grantees, you cannot commit any choice-limiting actions prior to the completion of the environmental review. If you are working on a project and you're unsure if a specific action might be choice limiting, definitely ask HUD before doing anything. So now I'm going to show you our online resources to help you with environmental compliance. So first is our main page. This is our landing page on the HUD Exchange, and this can easily be found by Googling HUD Environmental. The main links to note are our staff contacts, our web-based instructional system for environmental reviews, also known as WISER, the link to HEROS, training webinars, and finally, resources for our specific environmental laws and authorities. So here, the first one is our staff contact page. If you're working within a region, and if you're working on a project and you aren't sure which region you're working in, you click on Find Your Region, and we'll let you know, based on the state your project is located in, which region you should reach out to for HUD staff. We have WISER. In our office, we really like our acronyms, so we have HEROS and WISER. So WISER is made up of 15 modules that cover the basics, tools and resources, and each of the laws and authorities. Each module is self-paced and includes background, guidance on HUD compliance, and instructions for using online tools. This is an excellent resource if you are very new to HUD environmental review procedures. Our HEROS main landing page. It includes a link to the HEROS access form, which I'll discuss in more detail, as well as all of our HEROS training resources. We have our environmental review training page. This includes training for specific topics as well as specific HUD programs. Finally, we have our environmental laws and authorities landing page. This page links you to each of the laws and authorities, and here we'll take a closer look at the Coastal Barrier Resources Act. So each of these laws and authorities has a page that includes background information and guidance on how to comply with for HUD programs. It also includes links to resources. So now we're going to jump into discussing HEROS. So what is HEROS? HEROS is an enterprise system that walks users through the environmental review process. It replaces HUD's old paper-based system and moves us into the 21st century. The next few slides, I'm going to discuss how Part 50 and Part 58 works in HEROS. Veterans program is only under Part 50, so if you're a veterans grantee, you are strictly working with HUD on your environmental reviews. If you're a SHOP grantee, you can work with a responsible entity to complete the review under Part 58. However, if you're unable to identify or work with a responsible entity, you can work with HUD on a review under Part 50. So under Part 50, a grantee and their consultant can work together on the same review and submit that review to HUD. There's some background noise. Can everyone please put their phones on mute? For Part 50, there are two user roles: the partner, who assists in the preparation of the environmental review, and HUD, who performs the analysis and approves the review. So as a SHOP grantee, you are a partner. If you hire a consultant, they are also a partner. So throughout this webinar, anything that can be completed by a partner user will be highlighted in navy blue, and what needs to be completed by HUD will be highlighted in green. Responsible entities, under Part 58, SHOP grantees can work with their consultant, and they work with the responsible entity. And under Part 58, partners assist responsible entities with the Part 58 review by supplying documentation. Responsible entities perform analysis and finalize everything, and HUD approves the authority to use grant funds. An example of the process when a partner user is working with HUD. A partner can initiate review, complete analysis and documentation, and submit the review to HUD. HUD reviews the partner's analysis and documentation, completes compliance requirements, makes findings and determinations, and approves the review. If there's any missing information from the partner, HUD can assign a review back to the partner to work out anything that needs to be provided. So your access. After this training, you'll be sent a follow-up email, and it will include a link to the HEROS access form. The link to this form is also available on the website that I showed you before on our HEROS main page. In this access form, you'll be asked to provide basic information that I'll walk you through now. So you'll be asked to provide basic contact information. If you have a HUD-issued ID, you'll provide it to us, but if you don't have a HUD-issued ID, you'll have to select no. So a HUD-issued ID would be something that would be used with our IDIS system. So if you don't have any access to HUD systems, you don't have a BRC ID yet. So if you don't, select no, and we'll set you up with an ID. If you don't have an ID, you'll be asked to provide a 5-digit PIN. This should be 5 digits that you can easily remember when you have to reset your password, or we really recommend that you write down your 5-digit PIN just in case you ever have to call for a password reset. You'll select your organization type. If you work for a SHOP or Veterans Program grantee, you can select nonprofit. If you are a consultant hired by that grantee to complete an environmental review, you can select consultant. Enter the name of your organization, and you'll select the type of program that you're working with. So here we have a special selection for you for SHOP Veterans Program grantees. Who is legally responsible for and finalizes the HUD environmental review for your organization? So a veterans grantee, you're only going to be able to select HUD. A SHOP grantee, you can select both because you can work with responsible entities, and if you're unable to work with a responsible entity, you can work with HUD. Finally, you'll have to provide the name of your HUD contact for environmental review. So here, for veterans grantees, we're going to enter the name Sen Young. He is with the Office of Rural Housing and Economic Development. And then if you're working with SHOP, you'll have to enter the name of your local field office, CPD rep, or PES that you're working with. So when you submit this form, it should take about 3 weeks to process your user access request. If you're missing any information, we might contact you for follow-up. But you will receive an email letting you know that your access has been granted, and that email will come from herosinfo@hud.gov. Okay. Now we're going to go into a quick demonstration of HEROS. And just a reminder, if you have any questions, you can enter them into the Q&A pod, and we can respond to them at the end of the presentation. But if anything comes to mind when presenting, feel free to enter it at any time, and we'll go over them at the end. Here's a high-level representation of the environmental review process. First is defining the project, determining your level of review, performing analysis, finalizing the review by HUD, and then if there are any post-review considerations such as mitigation measures that need to be taken. All of this information is maintained in the Environmental Review Record, or ERR, and HEROS maintains this information and creates the Environmental Review Record. HEROS login. As a partner user, you'll receive a BID and an initial password when you receive your welcome email. If you have any issues with accessing the system, there's a 1-888 number on this screen you can call to address any login issues. Or you can submit a question via Ask a Question on the HUD Exchange. We'll walk through some general system tips before we dive into kind of the flow of the screen. So first, save your work often. Due to HEROS security system inactivity timeouts, if you're inactive in HEROS for 20 minutes, you will be logged out. Note that typing on a screen that is not being active, you need to make sure you're pressing the Save button often. You will receive a pop-out warning you when there's 3 minutes remaining, and you should press Continue and save your work very quickly after that. We have text tips. So anytime you see a blue circle next to a word, if you click on it, you'll have a pop-up that will provide you with a little clarification and more information. Have a special note about file names. A large part of the environmental review documentation will be uploaded into the system. So this will be like a PDF, a Word document, anything of that sort. So when name these files that you're going to be uploading into the system, do not use anything besides numbers and letters. The period before the .pdf or .word are fine, but any additional periods or any additional special characters will cause issues with generating your environmental review record. We have our side menu. So after completing the initial screen, a side menu will appear on the left-hand side of your screen. And then after determining your project's level of review, this menu will expand to show the different screens that you'll need to work your way through for finalizing a review. So when you first log into HEROS, you will land on your My Environmental Reviews dashboard. And the first time you land there will be nothing here. So here you'll only see the reviews that you are currently working on. So when you log in the first time, you won't see anything, but when you start working on a review and you log back in to work on it, it will be on the dashboard. So if you want to, there's a button to do so. All right, the first question you'll be asked is, what type of review are you working on? Part 58 or Part 50? And based on your profile, you'll be able to select Part 50 or Part 50. But if you most likely be able to select Part 50 if you're a veterans program and SHOP, you'll have to know which part your review is falling under. If you're working with HUD, it will be Part 50. If you're working with the local government, it will be Part 58. Part 50. So on this initial screen, you're going to be entering a lot of basic project information. The one thing to note about this screen is that you have to complete this screen in its entirety in order to save the review in the system. So make sure you have kind of gathered all the information that you'll need. You know, you can add placeholders and go back and edit it, but just be sure that when you're starting a review that you are able to save this screen to make sure the review is started in the system. So as I mentioned before, as I walk through these screens, what can be completed by a partner will be highlighted in blue, and what can be completed by HUD will be highlighted in green. So here, as a partner, you'll enter your project name, as well as your HUD funding source. So just a note for the Veterans Program, in the program name drop list, it's not listed, so you'll have to select your CPD program, but for SHOP, you are in the drop-down list. So once you select your HUD funding source, you enter your total HUD funded amount and estimated total project cost. If you anticipate to use funds or any federal assistance from another federal agency in addition to HUD, then you'll be asked if your project involves over 100 lots, dwelling units, or beds. And HUD will come in and just confirm information. Bottom of the initial screen, you'll be asked to provide your T information. Name of the HUD preparer, so this should be the person you're in contact with to make sure the review is complete. And if you're a consultant, you'll enter your consultant name and the point of contact. Save and continue, and then HUD will finalize this and make sure everything is correct. We'll move on to the project summary screen. So here, a partner can enter the project description as well as the project location, and then HUD, once the review is with them, will review that information. To work your way further down on a project summary screen, partner users can select the type of activity involved in the project, whether the project will lead to a change of land use, and what's the final use of the property. HUD, be sure to save, and then HUD will always come back and confirm this information. Next, determining the level of review. As partners, you make a preliminary level of review selection, and HUD will confirm this level of review is correct and will approve the partner's selection. And refer to program guidance for information on determining the level of review. HUD Notice 16-12 provides guidance to SHOP grantees on the levels of environmental review based on project activities. And Veterans environmental guidance that should be out very soon will also provide this information based on eligible activities. So here's the screen. And again, only HUD can determine the level of review. The initial selection by a partner is just advisory. For this example, we're going to select a categorically excluded subject to project, and it's going to be rehab of a building, and it's going to be rehab of a building for residential use that is not increasing the density beyond 4 units. The land use is not changed, and the footprint of the building is not increased into a floodplain or wetland. So this will be what the partner is submitting to HUD, and then HUD will go back in and confirm that this is the appropriate level of review based on the project activity. And they always click Save and Continue. I'm going to walk through a few of the related laws and authorities screens. A partner user cannot legally complete the full analysis and compliance steps for the laws and authorities. Partner makes suggestions and initial analysis, but HUD will make the final determination. Partners cannot initiate consultation for historic preservation or endangered species. And to ensure that HUD reviews each of the law and authority screens, partner users may not reply to the final question on each screen. Are formal compliance steps or mitigation required? You'll see the question, but you will not be able to select the answer. So HEROS does require that each screen be fully completed to make sure that documents can be uploaded. So as a partner user, you're going to respond to the questions using your best suggestions for HUD. You are going to work your way through the screen, explain your actions and suggestions to HUD, and be explicit about which responses are final and which are advisory. HUD will come back and review all of this documentation and feedback provided on each screen. If you want to familiarize yourself with the process flow of the laws and authorities screens in HEROS, we do have our partner worksheets on our website, and they walk through the same logic as HEROS does. These are the worksheets that are referenced in Notice 16-12 for grantees. Okay, analysis. Depending on your level of review, this screen will have 3 or 16 laws and authorities. Here, partners will be able to click on the specific compliance factor, and they'll be able to provide compliance determinations, but as said before, they will not be able to answer the question, are formal compliance or mitigation required? That requires HUD to come back and review the compliance determination and select the final yes or no question. So I'm going to now walk through a few of the trickier screens in HEROS to show you how this would work as a partner user. Floodplain Management. As a partner user, you can create a flood insurance rate map with your site marked on it and identify whether the project contains any floodplains. So this is a preliminary suggestion. You can make a preliminary suggestion as to whether an exception in 24 CFR 55.12 applies. 8-step or 5-step process is required. You'll have to work with HUD to complete this process. And you should not conduct any of the 8 or 5-step process without first consulting with HUD. And this is because the 8 or 5-step process require alternative analysis and public notification requirements. So if you run into a project that will require that, definitely work closely with on that. The floodplain management screen looks like. The first question, you're asked if there are any exceptions under 5812C. If not, you're going to click Next of the above to get to the next part of the screen. So here, under question 2, you'd upload your FHRMP with your site marked, and you'll have to respond if your project is in a floodplain or not. So for this example, we're going to say the project is in a floodplain and it's in a 100-year floodplain. So we're going to say that the 8-step process does apply, and the partner user is going to suggest mitigation that could be met. So if an 8-step process is required, definitely work with HUD and then make your suggestions on the screen as to what mitigation should be included. And, this should be in discussion with HUD. And finally, HUD will come back and update this information and provide clarification. Finally, to the screen summary, where you'll begin an initial compliance determination based on your responses, and you'll add more information, more information about the specifics of the flood insurance rate map and any suggestions for HUD. Finally, you'll upload documentation, and then HUD will come and finalize the compliance determination and finally answer our formal compliance steps or mitigation required. Next, we're going to Wetlands Protection. So if a project involves ground disturbance, you're going to need to conduct a preliminary screening to see if the site contains a wetland. If a project site does contain a wetland, definitely consult with HUD as to where you need to work a little further with Fish and Wildlife Service. Also, if an 8-step process is required, you'll have to coordinate with HUD. For this example, the first question, does your project involve new construction or expansion of the building's footprint? If you remember, on the law and authority, on the level of review determination screen, we said that our project did not involve the expansion of the building's footprint, but for this example, we're going to say it does. So by selecting yes on the first question, you'll be taken to the second question. and provide more information about mitigation. So the partner can provide some text in this text box to alert the user about mitigation, as well as any mitigation actions can be selected. I'll then come back and finalize this. Next, screen 7, which is the same setup as the floodplain screen. There's an initial compliance determination generated by HEROS. The partner will add more information and upload documentation. HUD will come back and edit the compliance determination and answer the final question on the screen. Next, we have endangered species. As I mentioned before, partners should not contact the Fish and Wildlife Service or NOAA for consultation. They should need to coordinate with HUD to do this. Okay. So as we walk through this screen, the first question, does the project involve any activities that will have the potential to affect the species or habitat? We'll select yes. We'll on to the second question, where we will select yes. There are federally listed species or critical habitat present in the action area. Under question 3, we're going to say there's no effect. And we will be taking to question 6, where we will select no mitigation is necessary. And this is based on coordination with HUD and working with Fish and Wildlife. So all these can be responded to by the partner user, and the partner user can enter text on the screen. And HUD will come back and finalize this information. The screen will be taken to the screen summary, where the partner user will edit the compliance determination to discuss the process that has been worked on with HUD, upload support documentation, and then HUD will come back and finalize the compliance determination and answer the final question on the screen. So Section 106, partners should not contact the State Historic Preservation Officers or the Tribal Historic Preservation Officers. This can only be done by HUD. So as a partner, you can do preliminary research and provide this background information to HUD, but consultation needs to be done by HUD. So your preliminary suggestions, you'll describe your conclusions, and you will coordinate with HUD. Here's what the screen looks like. So for this example, we're going to say that the project includes activities with potential to cause effects. 1, initiate consultation. You can enter information, but you should not be leading consultation. You can work with HUD for consultation with the SHPO and TIPO and other interested parties. You can provide a summary of the consultation process. When HUD finalizes the review, they'll update this information. Under Step 2, you'll identify and evaluate historic properties, and you will work with HUD to identify these properties. So you can provide additional notes to HUD, and then HUD will come back and finalize this. You will provide notes on the determination, your advisory recommendation to HUD, and then HUD will come in and finalize this. And the screen summary as with before, HEROS provides a compliance determination based on responses. The partner user will elaborate and provide more information to HUD, and they'll upload documentation. HUD will come back and finalize the compliance determination and answer the final step on the screen. You do have if you are working on an environmental assessment, analysis can be initiated by the partner and HUD will finalize it. Oops, sorry, I moved through that a little too quickly. So for environmental assessments, you can provide an initial impact code and impact evaluation, and if mitigation is necessary, and HUD will come back and finalize this screen. Next, we have mitigation measures. So these measures are recorded on each of the law and authority screens when a user is prompted to add mitigation measures into a text box. So once the screen, if you notice that anything needs to be edited or changed, if you click on the blue text under law, authority, or factor, you'll be taken back to the screen where you can update the appropriate text box. users make the suggestion, HUD finalizes the mitigation measure or conditions, and HUD then provides information about the mitigation plan and clicks Save and Continue. Okay. So once you've walked through all of that, all the laws and authorities, if you're doing an environmental assessment, the environmental assessment factors and other screens, you'll be taken to the Prepare Notification screen. So as a partner user, you cannot proceed past this point. So if you are working with HUD, you need to assign a review to HUD. If you're working with a responsible entity, you can assign a review to a responsible entity. So while you're here, you can generate an environmental review record, and I'll show you what that looks like. But this is a point in time when you need to assign a review to the person who will finalize it. Environmental review record. This documents all of the text that has been entered on the screens. All of the documents that have been uploaded in HEROS will be turned into hyperlinks. And the first few pages mimic the initial project summary screen. So you see project description, you see maps that have been uploaded, you see your level of review, you see your funding information. Then you see your laws and authorities. So this looks like the screen in the system where you see the compliance determination and our formal compliance or mitigation required. And next of the environmental review record is each of the laws and authorities and how the user responded to the questions on the screen, as well as any documentation uploaded by the user becomes a hyperlink. So when you're on a screen, be sure to save the document, and you can also email this document to HUD when you assign a review to them. So this is kind of for your records and just a heads up to HUD what that is. So this is a electronic Microsoft Word document. So now on to assigning the review. So from that screen where you are kind of told to pass the review on, you need to assign a review, and the Assign Review button is in the side menu on the upper left-hand side. So on the Assign Review screen, you can enter the first or last name of the person you're going to be assigning the review to. So you have identified the person in the search box that you'll be assigning the review to. Be sure to highlight their name in gray so that the whole row is gray. And if you have been passing this review back and forth between, let's say, the grantee and the consultant, you'll be able to see who has previously been assigned the review, and you can easily just select from that box, or you can search for the person. So here, if you were working with Dan, you would type in Young as the last name, and you'll be able to find him and assign him the review. So once this review has been assigned to the next person, this review will no longer appear on your dashboard. So be sure that the person you're assigning a review to is available to edit the review, to work on a review. If they're not, and you need to get the review back, you can submit and ask a question, and we can assign a review back to you. But be sure to coordinate with who you'll be passing your review on to. On review, you do receive a confirmation email. As the person who is assigned a review, you receive the email, and the person you're assigning the review to also receives the email. And this email will include information such as the project name and the person who's assigned the review to you. So what happens when you've walked through this entire process and submitted the review to HUD? If there's any missing information, HUD will contact you. And if it's necessary, HUD will assign a review back to you to provide more documentation. Once the review is completed by HUD, you'll be notified by HUD that the project can proceed, and the review will be assigned back to the grantee. And we recommend that you save an electronic copy of the environmental review record. So one thing to know about the final environmental review record, on the second page, second or third page, depending on the length of the project description, you'll see a review certified box. So this will include the name of the HUD official who has approved the review and the date that they approved it. And one other thing to note is that reviews are posted to our HUD Exchange website. So reviews are published published during public comment period. So if you're working under Part 58, you do have public comment periods, so they're published online. Under Part 50, the completed reviews are archived on the HUD Exchange for about a year. All right, now we will take a look at the resources. So as I mentioned before, when we kind of quickly went over our website, we do have a HEROS landing page, and here we link to our kind of hodgepodge of resources. We have a user guide, which we are in the process of updating, so there should be a new user guide on the website soon. We have how-to videos, so if you wanted to focus on a specific part of the environmental review, you can watch one of these videos. If you wanted to know how to set up a review, you can watch a video on how to do that. If you want to watch a video on how to do the laws and authorities again, you can watch a video on that. Then we have our frequently asked questions. We also have our HUD Exchange Ask a Question, where you can let us know about any HEROS issues. We have live Q&A webinars. I do not know when our next one is scheduled off the top of my head, but those happen every so often, and we do let everyone know when those are happening. We have the HEROS worksheets if you want to familiarize yourself with the flow and the process of the system. And all of these materials are available on the HUD Exchange. Okay, so now I'll open it up to any questions.
Okay, we've got 2 questions in the queue, so if you've got more questions, please type them in now. First question is, if an individual has an IDIS user ID, they still have to create a HEROS account, or does the IDIS or DRGR account info work at HEROS account?
Okay, so good question. So it's not. So if you do have a already issued HUD ID, it does save us time with setting up your profile. We don't have to go through the process of requesting an ID for you, but it does not automatically translate from one system to another. But the good thing is that your password will be the same for like 3.
Our next one is a requirement that HUD be the party to contact the SHPO and tribes. Is that requirement applicable only when HUD is doing the review under Part 50, or also when there's an RE?
So it's for both. So if you're working with a project that requires consultation, consultation needs to be done by the responsible entity or HUD. This is due to government relations with tribes, and also under 58, the responsible entity needs to take the lead on consultation for historic preservation. So the same as both, partners should not be reaching out to these entities. The responsible entity and HUD should be doing that.
We've got a new question that came in. Another one just popped up. All right, so how will the system work with sub-grantees? Currently, sub-grantees do all of the early steps directly with the responsible entity, and then once the RE signs off, then the grantee sends it to HUD to issue the request for release of funds and authority to use grant funds. Do sub-grantees need access to HEROS?
So if sub-grantees are preparing the environmental documentation, which the question makes it sound like they are, they should have access to the system to provide that information to the grantee and then essentially onto HUD or the responsible entity.
In signing up for HEROS, what do you do if you work with multiple responsible entities?
If with multiple responsible entities, and Lauren Hayes, if you're on, definitely jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe on the HEROS access form, when you enter a responsible entity, you will be able to enter more than one. Is that correct, Lauren?
Additional ones on the form.
Okay, yeah, so if you work with more than one responsible entity, you can list them there. If you are a grantee that works nationally and you have a project in an area that you've never done it before and you're working with a new RE, you can let us know and we can link you to that RE in the system.
Okay, got one last one. So grantees will have to set up sub-grantees and responsible entities in HEROS. I guess can we talk more about how that is set up?
HEROS access request will be processed by HUD, so HUD will initially be setting it up. So if you are working with the subgrantee, you just need to let us know which if they're working with the responsible entity or if they're working with HUD. And you can email this person, you can email me after this to kind of clarify the ins and outs of this, but basically, as long as you and that subgrantee are under the same umbrella, whether it be a responsible entity or HUD, you'll be able to share the environmental reviews. So if you need information or if you wanted to kind of work with me on putting together a list of who works with who, we can do that in addition to submitting your access request.
So this next one starts with an acronym that I don't know, but I think we can use context clues. HSHI, which I think this would work for any subentity or non-responsible entity organization, in the past signed off on Part 3 of the Request for Release of Funds form. How will that process work in HEROS?
Okay, that's Habitat for Humanity International.
Thank you.
So under Part 3 of the Request for Release of Funds, you as the Part 3 non-RE recipient will be able to sign that part of the Request for Release of Funds in the system. So if you're working with an RE, you essentially certify that section within the environmental review in the system, or if the responsible entity is still doing a request for release of funds on paper, they might have you sign it on paper and then they'll upload it into the system. So it just depends on how that responsible entity is completing it. So they're either going to complete it on paper and you'll sign paper and they'll upload it for you, or you'll be able to select that you certify the Part 3 in the system.
Next one is, it appears that all environmental reviews will be going into the system, including categorical exclusions, and that the system guides one through each level of review. Is that correct?
Yes. So HEROS does walk through categorically excluded, not subject to reviews, categorically excluded, subject to reviews, and environmental assessment. So, you know, depending on your activities, HEROS will walk you through the different levels of review.
I think that's all the questions that we have gotten. Thanks.
Great. Well, thank you, Liz, and thank you, Lauren. So if you have any additional questions that come up after this webinar, definitely feel free to reach out to me via email, or you can submit a question using our Ask a Question link on the HUD Exchange. And we will be sending you information on how to sign up for HEROS after this webinar. So I appreciate your time this afternoon. Closing remarks?
Do not, other than our participants will receive a follow-up email from us with the link to the HEROS access form, and we will have the webinar recording and PowerPoint available within the following week, and that will be posted on HUD Exchange.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon, everyone.